Hi, today's the day I finally get my next succession of sunflowers planted in the ground. Now, as you all know, if you've watched my how to grow sunflowers video, I always start by soaking my sunflowers in a couple of inches of water for 24 hours. I label the jars. This one's double quick so that I know which one is which. And then I plant them up in these sized pots. You can see there's roots coming out of this one. It needs to get in the ground. Now I have 3 successions sitting here already planted out, and that's about what I like to have. And as I start the next succession, the oldest one gets planted. But I actually like to plant the oldest one before I start soaking the seeds because I need the pots for the next succession. And I haven't planted them yet, partly because it's been really hot. Today's not hot. You can see I'm not wearing a tank top. I've actually got sleeves down to my elbows. It's windy. We've got quite a good ocean breeze coming off the ocean. It is sunny. It will warm up a little later. This is still the morning. But for now, the temperature's good. So my sunflowers, I've got 2 trays of these. And as I'll put the link below on how to grow sunflowers so you can see what I'm talking about. How I've got color coded for which each one is. I won't go over that again. And I've got two 10 by 20 trays of that. There is 32. That makes there's 64 pots, but I've got some of them doubled up because I actually want to have closer to 100 to plant with each succession, which I do on a 7-day interval. So once I get those planted, then all of these seeds have to get planted into those pots. But before I do that, I have to weed. So let's go look at what I have to do. Actually, before I show you what I got to do, I just want to show you, this is the second peony that's opened up. I've cut the first one already. This was in full bloom yesterday, but I was at the farmer's market yesterday, so I haven't cut it and used it. And there's one other thing that I want to show you down here. And that is my lettuce plants, because if you remember on the May 11th garden tour, which again I'll link down below in the description box, how small they still were. Well, they're not small anymore. They're a little tipped over because and all wet because I just watered everything. But definitely ready to start picking. And picking we shall do, because there will be a lot of salads in the future. And all the Swiss chard that I picked, it's just starting to bolt now, so I can get one last picking for the dogs and for us, but I won't. The bolting ones will go into the dog food because it'll just be mixed in with a whole pile of stuff and they won't know the taste. But anyway, now to get on to what I have to do. The successions start here. I actually weeded those when I planted this last succession, which as you can see is also grown. Because I wasn't quite sure where it was going to end up. So I'll have to, so I don't need to weed here, just move the stuff out of the way. I collect the rocks as I plant that pop up to add into my little rock path here for where the water runs down in the wet weather. This is what I got to weed. Now you might look at that and go, how did you let the weeds get out of control like that? Well, I actually did that purposefully because the more things that are growing in your soil, the healthier your soil is. So while I've got lots of ivy that's coming through the fence and lots of buttercups, and I forget what this is called. This is a medicinal herb which grows like a weed here and I don't really need. Got feverfew, lots of feverfew. There is, I appear to have picked it out of this section, but there's lots of horsetail growing in here because again this is a wet spot. These are old sunflower stalks from last year. So all these weeds that are growing in here not only create good root habitat for micro and macrobiology, but it's a diversity of weeds, so it creates a lot of nutrients and health in the soil that otherwise would not be there if I had just left it blank. But anyway, I got to tackle all this, get all these weeds out before I start planting, so that's what I'm going to do now. So there you go. It's all cleaned out. It took a whole 15 minutes. And that included having Esri watching me. Were you watching me? Were you watching me? Anyway, here's all the the big thing of ivy, and I mean, it's hard to see, but this is a pretty big mound of stuff that I dug up. But it only took 15 minutes, so that was good. And at the same time, get my shadow out of there. Well, I'll go this way. You can see I cleaned out the drain. That drain goes to the downspout here. It just cuts across the path and exits here. And that's all the water that drains off of our deck up there, which is basically the size of a 2-car garage, a little bit bigger. So that's a lot of water that also then comes off the roof of our house, down onto the deck, across it, down the gutter, down the downspout, and out here. And I mean, you can see it's wet, and that's not from rain, that's just from watering the plants on the deck, I presume. So there we go, all the weeds are clear. I went as far as the ivy coming into the property. This I can clean out when I do the successions of sunflowers that are going to enter into that. And whoop, tripping. And the bricks all look really pretty there. So anyway, now on to planting the sunflowers. Before I get the sunflowers, I actually brought that big basket of weeds onto the driveway where it can bake in the sun and dry up that way before I put it aside and use it as compost. So I'm sidetracking on something else. Remember these sunflowers? These are the ones where there was nothing showing, and I was patting the soil saying that it's all really dried out from the heat wave, and I wasn't too concerned about it because that's what happens to seeds in nature. Well, sure enough, most of them have popped up. I mean, there's still some blank spots, but for the most part, even though the seed trays were really drying up before the sunflowers popped up, most of them have popped up. Now that might be from soaking the seeds for 24 hours, so the shells were definitely cracked and the baby seedlings going, but they didn't dry up. They were good to go. Anyway, now I'm gonna go get the sunflowers and plant them. So as you can see, I've planted quite a few of the sunflowers already. I only have a few more left to plant. And what I do is I take, grab one. I just take barbecue skewers and I place them at every 5 inches using a measuring tape, and every so often I come out the width direction and take the same measurement. You can see 5, 10, 15, 20, although that's a little shy of 20. Fix that, move that over, just so that I don't go off, and that's how I keep my measurement. It goes really fast. I mean, plunking these things every 5 inches with the barbecue skewers with the measuring tape is a pretty easy and fast thing to do. For me, it's, I got a dog in front of me who wants me to throw the ball. For me, it's faster than thinking about it. It's just to get the measuring tape going, plunk them in, and then it goes really super fast. And then I grab a pot. This is one. Remember I was saying that a number of them are doubled up. This would be one of them. And it's just simply a matter of, I'm going to see if I can put my camera between my knees so I can see what I'm doing here. Just a matter of squishing the pot, keeping a finger between the two, and just take it and break it apart like that. Place them on the ground. Go to the spot. Where's my shovel? I can't do this one. I can't do this without looking at what I'm doing. Dig a little hole. I plant my sunflowers deeper than they were in the pot. So I just dig a hole, grab the sunflower, plop it in, push it down really hard and tight, and then fill it in again. And then do the same thing for the next one. Oh, something's in the way here. More than likely a rock. But I can get, oh yeah, there's a rock. Throw that on the rock path. Get that hole nice and deep. Get my other sunflower. Plunk it in there. Push it down as far as it will go. pat the soil down on it. And that's it. And then I'll just carry on with the last few that I have to do. So that's how I plant my sunflowers. It's pretty straightforward. And see how much lower that is in the ground than, let's say I'll just grab another pot. I mean, if it was this high, it's now much more below the soil surface. And I do that for stem strength, because when you first transplant them, they might be a little bit on the weak side, but for the most part, they do great. Now what I'm going to do is just go over the successions and what they look like now since the garden tour on May 11th. So these are the ones I just planted. I'm going to swing around to the side of the garage. Everything's watered because as soon as you plant them, you should water them. I got to go back and water those after this video. Dirty fingers. So this is the succession where I started here. You can actually practically tell the difference in height between this one and this one. So that's where I started and moved over here. This is the succession before that. You can see it's got quite a bit more height on it. And this succession continues look, I got a dog. My husband said that Ezri was sitting in the sunflowers. That looks like one that got sat on. I think that goes to here because then you get into even taller sunflowers. And this succession takes me onto the driveway. There's my pile of weeds that are drying out from cleaning out that spot, to the first concrete bed, which is here. And you can see the sunflowers all look really good and healthy in here. And they've got a ground cover in there of borage, which is just perfect because the sunflowers will grow nice and tall. The borage kind of spills forward. Bees love the borage. The little blue pretty flowers are gorgeous and edible with a little spicy flavor. The second bed here has the succession before that. And as you can see, they're quite a bit bigger already. Again, they got borage down here. And a little random potato. And then the first bed has the first succession. And as you can see, that's already got a good, I'm going to call that 15 inches high. So those are the successions of the sunflowers traveling down the driveway and then down around the side of the garage and then along the back of the garage, but on the opposite side of the path up against the fence between us and our neighbors. So now that all the sunflowers are planted in those two 10 by 20 flats, I'm over at my filling station, which is literally just taking dirt out of this garbage can and filling the pots that way. I have that one, it's half empty now, and I have this one on the go. This has a lot of borage plants growing on the top. They just add health. They just pull out. I mean, really easy to pull those out. And of course, this is at the base of my back garden where the 4x8 flower beds are, and they get watered while the garden gets planted as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this tray up, carry it over to my bouquet making station over there. Look how dirty my hands are. Where I'll fill the flats up with the seeds. But first I got to get the two flats. Well, actually I filled one up already. I forgot to do some filming of my station. So again, I'll just fill up this flat, take it up there, and then I'm up there, and then I'm ready to get the seeds done. Well, it's later on in the day. It's still breezy, but it was pretty warm in the afternoon, so I stayed out of the heat because I've had enough of those kind of days for a while. But it's in the evening now, so it's cooled off. Still a little breezy, not as breezy as it was this morning. And you'll notice that I got two dogs here vying for attention, one on either side of me. I don't know if you can hear them at all. But anyway, you'll notice that look at go. Shoot. You'll notice that today's video was really a follow-up on my how to grow sunflowers. If you haven't seen that, you really should watch that because it'll go over which ones I'm growing and how I actually start the seeds. And the description for that will be in the link below. The other video that I referenced in this one a number of times was my May 11th garden tour, and I'll put that in the link below too. Later on in the season, once the sunflowers start blooming, I will do a video on bouquet recipes using sunflowers according to me. These dogs are just jumping up on me. And but that's not going to be until, of course, they start blooming. Next week, since my Ito peonies have started blooming, you saw the second bloom. The first one was cut. Once they start, they'll definitely progress rapidly. So next week's video may be about bouquet recipes using Ito peonies, because there'll be quite a few other things blooming by next week in the garden as well, based on how many buds I'm seeing in the garden and what's starting to bloom now as well. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. That's the way that I know that you did like it. If you enjoy all of my videos, please subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps my channel and I really appreciate it. And if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below, and I'll be sure to answer all of your questions and all of your comments, because I do like the communication. It helps me, again, gauge how my videos are doing. But until next week, bye!